Hey, how's it going? This is Frank Duran, realtor here in San Antonio, doing yet another TikTok live. Got a lot of good responses last time, so thank you so much for everybody who's responding and checking out those lives. One of the things that I'd like to let you know as well is that I'm going to be changing topics. So every time I'm going live, I'm probably talking about a different topic, but it lines up with what's actually on my blog on my website. So if you look at my link in the bio, there is my website, firsthometexas.com. It's 1ST, hometexas.com. And if you go there, go to the blog, you're going to see articles on all these topics. So today, I wanted to talk to you about down payment assistance. So there is a myth out there that if you're looking to buy a home, especially here in San Antonio, and you don't have $10,000 or twenties of thousands of dollars, $20,000, $25,000 saved, that there's no way that you can get a home. And that's just not true. So if you're a first-time home buyer, which is who I specialize in working with, there's lots of assistance programs. And that's the great thing about living here in Texas, is that these programs are available to all Texans. So that's excellent. And especially here in San Antonio, we get a little bit of extra assistance. So that's what I want to walk through right now. Just what are these different programs and what's actually, available to you. And I will say this. So I'm a licensed realtor in the state of Texas. I'm not a licensed lender, but I do have lending experts that I work with. And so these lending experts can help you understand what down payment assistance programs you're qualified for, if any. The program requirements, they do sometimes change. So even though I do have these things listed on my website, I actually have a whole page dedicated to down payment assistance programs just for awareness sake. But definitely look at the websites. They have the links to the websites, to the organizations that actually distribute these assistance programs. And yeah, you always need to talk to a qualified lender, which I can connect you to directly without a doubt, to find out if you qualify. Okay, so just letting you know, some of these conditions change, but what I want you to walk away with for this particular session is at least some awareness of what these programs are, and the fact that they're even available in the first place. So that's one of the things that I hope you take away from this particular session, is that these assistance programs are out there and available to you. Okay, so that being said, excuse me. Let's actually talk about what these things are, right? So the down payment assistance programs, these things come in a couple different forms. Okay, so it's not like a one size fits all. Okay, but they come in a couple different ways here. So sometimes they come in the form of a grant that's forgivable. So grant just means that you don't have to pay it back. Not so bad, right? Of course, you have to qualify for it, but sometimes they come in the form of a grant. A lot of the times they come as a deferred second loan that's maybe at a 0% interest rate. So it's kind of like those consumer credit cards that you see out there where you go to like Best Buy. So like I've done that too. Go to Best Buy and they're like, oh yeah, you get 18 months free, free money, right? Well, what they're really saying is that it's a 0% interest rate. And so that's some of the assistance comes in that form as well, right? Where you get, actually it's an additional kind of micro loan, we'll say, but that money is meant to be used directly for your closing costs. For example, your down payment, which is the biggest part of your closing costs a lot of the time, right? And then sometimes they come in the shape of like a second mortgage. So what that means is it blends into your monthly mortgage payment that you're going to be paying on the home. So it kind of gets worked into that. But here's the thing. The whole idea of these down payment assistance programs is it helps you overcome that financial barrier of coming up with your down payment. So I can't tell you how many times I talk to people and they want to buy a home. They definitely, are not shying away from it. They've probably been renting for years, but you just don't think that you're able to do it because you don't have tons of money in your savings account that you've been putting away over the years, right? I know that was my case when I went to go buy my first my first home. Is that I was worried about how much money did I have in the bank to actually pay for a down payment, because I knew there's a thing called a down payment. Well, that's the whole idea about these down payment assistance programs. That's why they're called that, right? DPA is another acronym that we use for those. But the down payment assistance program is meant to assist you with your down payment and make home ownership a reality for you. That's the whole idea. And you might be thinking to yourself, why are people giving away money for down payments? That doesn't make sense, right? Well, think about it like this. In the state of Texas, right, we're thinking about millions of people and cities and communities, and what does it take for these communities to thrive? The fact of the matter is that home ownership is the backbone for any thriving community in the United States, let alone the great state of Texas, right? So if you think about that, if you have more homeowners in a community, which tends to make that community thrive, because if you're a homeowner in a community, now you have an asset to start building wealth over time, but also you're a part of that community. You're going to the local shopping centers, right? You're going to the local businesses. You're spending your money as well, right? So the whole idea of having homeowners in a community is to help that community thrive. And that's the reason why these programs exist. One of the reasons, I should say, right? And so that's why these programs exist, is to create more homeowners in Texas, right? And I mean, who can't love that, right? And that's why I love working with first-time home buyers, especially, to help you understand that these things, these options are out there for you, right? Now, there are a few different types of programs. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and get into a little bit of explaining of some of these programs. Again, I'm just going to give you guys an overview. This is an awareness kind of thing. So just letting you know, yes, I do have a few notes in front of me to touch on a couple points. But at the same time, if you want to know more details, the easiest way to do that is to set up a quick little 15-minute consultation with me. I'll get you connected to my expert lending partners, and they can find out if down payment assistance is something that you can qualify for, right? And what that helps you, if that helps you get into possibly your own home, right? You never know. You don't know until you ask, right? And the easiest way to find out is to set up a quick little 15-minute consult with me, and I can get you connected for sure, okay? So with that being said, there is a state level program. It's called, the organization is called TSAHC. Yes, there's a lot of acronyms out there, but the program specifically that I'm thinking of is My First Texas Home, right? That's the program that they distribute. Excuse me. And this program is meant for first-time buyers. So that means that you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years, according to their program, okay? And this particular program is a low interest second lien. So remember I told you about second liens is some of the shape and form of what this assistance looks like. So that's exactly what it is. It's kind of like a mini loan there, right? Now there's another program that they have as well called My Choice Texas Home. Here's the thing, guys, like a lot of these program names say Home, Texas, My First. It's going to use a lot of these common words. It's really easy to mix them up. That's okay. Like, I don't expect anybody to be an expert in this stuff. But again, I want to share this with you for your own benefit and to make you aware that these things exist, okay? So the next program that they administer is called My Choice Texas Home. Now that one has a similar structure as well, right? So it is one of those things where it's focused on first-time buyers. So you should not have owned a home in the previous 3 years, right? So it should be at least 3 years since you've owned a home. Again, it's a second lien. This one is focused on folks that are repeat buyers, okay? and it's more lenient on the first time requirements. So just to let you know there. And the assistance amount is up to 5% of the entire loan for the house, okay? Think about that. Up to 5%. Now, we're going to get into a little bit of math, all right, guys? So, if you're doing an FHA loan, so Federal Housing Administration structured loan, okay? An FHA loan, those are, again, for folks that are going to use this home for their primary residence. First-time home buyers is a good example of that, right? So if I'm buying a home and that's going to be my home, that's where I'm going to be living, right? So we're not talking about investment properties, anything like that, none of that stuff. We're talking about folks that are truly going to live in that home, and this is going to be my residence, the community I'm going to live in, okay? So you're going to be eligible for an FHA loan, given that criteria, right? Now, yes, credit checks, all those things, right? I talked about that stuff a little bit before too. We'll put a pin in that one though. We'll talk about that more. But if you're applying for an FHA loan, the typical down payment that's required for an FHA loan is 3.5% to 5%. So, yes, this can be used with an FHA loan, a VA loan, a USDA loan, and a conventional financing, which is more like 20% down payment. But let's stick with the FHA scenario for a minute, okay? So if you're trying to go after an FHA loan, and let's say it's even 5%, that it's a required down payment is 5% because maybe your credit score is not the best, right? Like, by the way, that was me many years ago. Then you getting down payment assistance through, let's say, My Choice Texas Home or My First Texas Home, one of those two programs of up to 5%, that's pretty much going to cover your down payment, guys. See what I'm saying? So you don't know until you look at these programs, until you apply, right? So one of the things that you're going to want to do is definitely you want to, talk to a lending expert, and you definitely want to get yourself pre-qualified for, let's say, an FHA loan, right? If you served in the military, use your VA benefits. I'll touch on that in a little bit, right? But here's the thing, is that if they're offering you down payment assistance up to 5% and your whole down payment is only 5%, then guess what? You just, overcame that barrier to actually own that home, right? That means that some of the savings that you have is all of a sudden more than enough to close on a new home. Yes, there are closing costs that are a little bit more than just what the down payment will be, right? But again, if we're thinking about, like, let's say your credit's, pretty darn good. Let's say the down payment for the FHA loan is going to be 3.5% in that case, right? Well, now you getting up to 5% assistance means that you can cover that. It's not a problem, right? So I hope what you're seeing and you're hearing what I'm trying to communicate to you when I say that if you're using the right loan program, if you're applying for that assistance and you do qualify for that assistance, all of a sudden the requirement of having $10,000 in the bank isn't really much of a barrier anymore, right? Because maybe you don't need that much money up front to get into a home for yourself, right? So all I want you guys to know is that these programs exist, right? So that being said, let's say you are looking for a $300,000 home in San Antonio, right? Which the median is definitely at that $300,000 point. So that's going to get you a pretty darn good home in San Antonio, and probably a good area too. And so again, if you're looking at that 5% on $300K, then that's $15,000, right? But again, if you're going to go ahead and do that, one of those grant programs, could be a lien, could be grant, either way, right? Depends on your qualifications. But all I'm saying is that that's going to more than cover your down payment, right? Now, the caveats here are your credit, your income level as well, okay, as you can imagine. And they vary a little bit. And, here's the thing. This is your particular case, your individual case. Everybody's different, right? Our situations are different. This is why I definitely recommend clicking that link in my bio, setting up some time for a consult. I definitely want to get you connected with my expert lender who has helped many of my clients with down payment assistance programs, by the way. That's something that I definitely want to make sure that you guys are taking advantage of. Don't be shy about just having a quick conversation, right? Because what's the harm? All that's going to mean is that you're going to have more definitive answers than you did before, right? And, if you qualify or you don't, at this point in time, you're guessing. It's better to know. So set up that quick consult. Let me get you connected with somebody so that way you know the answers. And more importantly, once you know the answers, now you can make a plan to start that home ownership journey, right? All right. So there is another Texas state level program. It's administered by TDHCA. And this is another program called My First Texas Home, which, yes, some of these organizations have programs that are named the same thing, and that's okay. But what this is it's a program that's paired up with down payment and closing cost assistance. And it's usually paired up with like a 30-year fixed mortgage, right? And so when we think about home ownership, when we think about lending in general, we're usually talking about 30-year fixed mortgages. That's the more conservative way to go, right? There's a lot of different loan programs out there. Again, I'm not the lending expert, but my partner, I have a partner who I trust, and he can give you way more details about that. But just to keep it simple, that's the type of program that's usually best with a 30-year fixed mortgage, okay? Very similar to, what we're talking about before, where it could be worked into any existing loan program that you're going after. In this case, most likely an FHA loan, which tends to be a better program for first-time home buyers, right? Now, there's another thing, excuse me, there's another program that they have called Home Sweet Texas. Love that name, by the way. That gives you up to 5% assistance, right? And it's open to buyers who don't meet the strict first-time buyer testing there. So if you haven't owned if you have owned something in the past 3 years, then you can still qualify for that assistance under that program. Now, here's the thing. There's a practical difference between this organization, TDHCA, and the TSAHC, which I know there's a lot of letters on those, but they're two different scenarios there. Their down payment assistance programs work in similar ways, right, as grants and liens. They do have similar qualifications, but just letting you know, they're two different, organizations with different programs, right? So you have to see if you qualify for one or the other individually, right? And again, one of those things are, making sure to, look at your income levels and your credit score and things like that. And again, everybody has an individual scenario, so that's where my lending expert can really help you out, okay? Now, if you've already talked to a lender about these kind of things, that's great. If you've been pre-approved already before, maybe you tried this already, great. My question to you is, how much of a conversation did you guys have about down payment assistance programs, right? And maybe there's some possibilities there. So I will say that a lot of these programs you do have to qualify for, of course, because they have their own specific criteria. But these programs paired up with an FHA loan or a VA loan or something to that effect then makes homeownership a very real thing for a lot of people. And that's why these programs exist, right? But you're not going to know that unless, again, you set up a quick little 15-minute chat with me. I can get you connected with somebody. We can get you definitive answers, okay, and talk about your specific situation, right, and put you on a path to home ownership. So moving on. So in San Antonio, specifically where I'm at, there's actually local programs here in San Antonio. And the cool thing about that is that, well, let me just say this, right? San Antonio is the 7th largest city in the country and growing, by the way, right? And remember what I talked about before, like why are people, giving away this money? Why are people creating these programs? Again, homeowners in a community helps the community thrive. So San Antonio being the 7th largest city in the country and still growing, there's a reason why, because this city does a lot to make sure that people in this community, enjoy San Antonio. And even better, if they have a program that can help San Antonians become homeowners, which is excellent, right? Now, here's the thing about these programs here for San Antonio. This is administered through SAHA, basically the city of San Antonio. And so it's a homeownership incentive program, and it's called HIP 120. There's a HIP 82, but HIP is a homeownership incentive program. That's what HIP means, homeownership incentive program. So it's a zero interest, no payment second loan, basically, for up to $15,000. Okay. Now, here's the thing: is that if you have a home, and again, remember what we talked about. If you're looking at a $300,000 home, and you're looking at 5% down payment, which is about 15 grand, this one is going to get you the loan, right? That's going to get you the second loan. So it works very similar to the My First Home Texas programs, right? As an example, very similar to that. But in this particular case, the income eligibility requirement is extended a little bit, thus the 120. The HIP, same idea, but it has 80, so it's a little bit stricter on the income requirement, okay? So those are the two big differences there, is that one has a little bit more flexibility for the income requirement, and one is a little bit more strict. Now, here's the thing. How do you know what you qualify for, right? Again, got to talk to my lending expert friend. He's going to be able to give you a really clear line of sight into what programs you're eligible for given your income. So these are, number one, focused on San Antonio city limits. Okay, so definitely need to make sure that you're in San Antonio city limits, and also has a very clear income requirement. Okay, so San Antonio city limits. So if you're in, like, say, I don't know, if you're in Helotes, right? Not going to help you out there. Sorry. If you're in Bernie, sorry, not going to help you out. But these programs, if you're within San Antonio city limits, which, I mean, the city's pretty big, there's plenty of opportunities out there, right? Then these are definitely programs that you want to ask about, okay? And again, if you've already gone out and gotten pre-qualified, great, gotten those pre-approvals, right? That's awesome. But ask about these programs, okay? And here's the thing. These are programs that I bring up to my clients all the time. So if you want just talk about, like, what do these programs mean, and talk it out a little bit as well, quick little 15-minute call, definitely book that chat with me, okay? Now, here's one of the things that a few things I want to call out loud here, is that this particular program for San Antonio, so the HIP program, right? It does require a HUD approved, so that's the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department, right? So it does require a HUD approved 8-hour homebuyer education course, okay? So, and it does require at least a $500 earnest money deposit, okay? So there is those requirements around it. And just know that some of these assistance programs will come with an extra requirement, like taking a home buyer course, right? I will say this, I did have plenty of clients that have bought their homes, and some of them have taken home buyer courses in the past for whatever reason, right? Some of them were for assistance reasons. Some of them were just to like take the course just to know what to expect. I'll just say humbly that they've told me repeatedly they've learned more by working with me than they have from any course, right? And I'm not trying to downplay any of those courses, because there's tons of courses out there. There's tons of great resources out there. Go seek them out. That's the reason why I have firsthometexas.com as a website I built for you. I also want to make that a resource to help you in your home buying journey as well. So I just want to let you know that educating yourself about buying a home ahead of time is a great move. Another way that you can start to educate yourself as well is to set up a quick 15-minute call with me, and then I can start pointing you in the right direction. And guess what? No matter what, even if you go through one of those courses or you go through the whole experience, you're definitely going to learn plenty along the way. But that's the thing, is that you're trying to learn these things not because you have to, but what I find a lot of people is that they want to learn about these different steps in the homeownership process so they can feel confident making these decisions. Because ultimately, I'm here to help you make good decisions, right, when it comes to buying a home, but it is your decision. So when you hire me as your realtor, you're my boss, right? So I do what you say, but I will definitely offer you all the advice and guidance I possibly can to make sure that you're going into a good situation, okay? Now, there's another thing too, that there are mortgage credit certificates. Now, these mortgage credit certificates are pretty interesting. They don't get talked about a lot, and here's the thing, they're a little complicated. I'm not going to go too deep into them. However, there is a thing called a mortgage credit certificate, okay? And so it doesn't really reduce your down payment, but it helps you with your tax bill for the life of the loan, okay? So if you know this or not, when you have a mortgage, you can write off some of the taxes every year, right? And consult a tax person, consult a CPA for all those details of that about this one. But the mortgage credit certificate can help you, with a little bit more on your taxes every year when you're owning a home. So the nice thing about owning a home is it starts affording you some tax write-offs. So that's kind of a nice thing, right? And so I will just say that mortgage credit certificates are one of those things that I don't think are talked about enough, but we do have to think about your taxes, right? They're just a thing that exists in the world. And when you own a home, sometimes taxes start feeling a little bit more complicated, but they're really not that complicated. The reality is that we just need to talk about these things. And so I would definitely also ask any lender you're working with, either if you're working with me or somebody else, whoever it is, hey, tell me more about a mortgage credit certificate. Tell me more about that. Like, what is that? Can that help me, right? And these are things that, sometimes people figured out that, that these things exist after they've already purchased a home, right? So not only the mortgage credit certificates, but the HIP program from the city of San Antonio, the Texas state level benefit programs where they're giving you grants and second liens, up to 15 grand or 5% of the whole loan. People find out about these programs after the fact, right? The problem is that you can't necessarily go get them after the fact, right? Because remember, some of these requirements, require that you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years, right? Some of the programs do say that. So these are definitely things you want to know beforehand, right? So all I'm trying to tell you guys is that ask the questions, ask about these programs. And even if you don't remember all these letters, where it's like, hey, I saw this guy and he was talking about, all these letter acronyms, and he talked about down payment assistance, and it was something like My Texas Home or something like that, right? I mean, just ask the question, right? And then that way you'll be able to find out if you qualify for it in the first place, but then also you can, rest assured that you tried to ask for all the assistance that you could, because there's nothing wrong for asking for assistance, especially when it gets you into your own home, right? And remember, you don't have to remember and memorize all this stuff right now, okay? These are things that are actually on my website. So if you go to firsthometexas.com, that's 1st hometexas.com, you will see a link in the main navigation that says down payment assistance, and it will list out these things for you, okay? Now, here's one of the things that's interesting, is that these benefit programs, some of them stack up with different loan programs, right? So remember I talked about FHA, which is a big one, but guess what? We are in Military City, USA. We're in San Antonio. So I would be remiss if I didn't talk about VA loans, right? So VA loans are one of those things that are earned through the benefit of serving this country. So first of all, thank you for your service if you have served in the military. But second of all, I will say that definitely use those VA benefits that you have earned through your service. Please, please do that, right? Another great thing about me is that I am what's called MRP certified. So that means that I am a military relocation professional. What does that mean? That means I'm very, very familiar with all the VA benefits that you're entitled to. I hope you are too, by the way. If you served in the military and you haven't asked questions about your VA benefits, ask more questions about them. There's tons out there. I'm just talking about the ones that help you buy a home, okay? So when it comes to buying a home here in San Antonio, your VA benefit is definitely a huge benefit. And you may or may not know this, but if you are using your VA loan benefit, then that automatically means you may not have to have a down payment. That's a zero down payment if you qualify for it, right? So what does that mean? That means that you can own a home pretty quickly, right? And I know there's other things that happen, like you may have BAH if you're maybe PCS'd here to San Antonio, right? And then the other thing is let's say you're retired, maybe you separated from the military and you retired, and you ended up in San Antonio, which is great because it's a great military town as well, right? Being close to your community. But the thing is, you still have that VA benefit that you can take advantage of, right? So don't hesitate to use that, especially when it comes with a $0 down payment, most likely. Now, here's the thing. All these benefits, all these down payment assistance programs are focused on down payments and closing costs. So you can't necessarily combine like two different programs to make everything roll down to zero, right? So you can't, sometimes when you're doing these down payment assistance programs, you're gonna have to pick and choose like which one is the better benefit for you, right? If you qualify for maybe a couple of them. But the thing is here is that if you're thinking about your VA benefit, that I think is a really good example of another down payment assistance program, because by using that VA benefit, your down payment is greatly reduced. Okay, and so in my mind, that qualifies as down payment assistance without a doubt. But I'm just letting you know that if you're using that benefit, if your down payment is zero, then you're not going to get down payment assistance for $0, right? Just letting you know, you can't necessarily stack it up like that. However, when you are buying a home, being reassured that you are able to take advantage of that VA benefit because of the fact that you serve this country, which again, thank you for your service, then I think there's nothing greater than taking advantage of that very, very beneficial VA benefit and trying to get into a home for $0. That is an excellent way to go. And again, I just happen to be familiar with a lot of the benefits that you have as somebody who has served in the military. And so if you're active, if you're retired, in the reserve, whatever it might be, I can definitely help you find out what benefits that you can apply if you're looking for a home. Okay. Now, the thing about a VA benefit as well, again, I just happen to know about these things because I am certified in this. So if you have a VA benefit, there is a certificate that is talked about how much are you eligible for buying a home. That's definitely has to do with your individual situation. So if you've heard things about that and you're like, I'm not really sure what's going on there and things like that, that's a really good reason for you to set up, again, a quick 15-minute call just for me to help understand what your situation is. And I'm definitely going to get you connected with my lending partner that I love to work with. He has worked on several VA loans. Again, we work and live here in San Antonio, so we not only support and love the military, but we worked with everybody who have served in the military for a long time. So he's definitely an expert in VA loans as well and can help you navigate that process. But if you're thinking about all these things that we've been talking about for the last, however many minutes now, right? Really what we're talking about here is talking about these are opportunities for you to actually get into the home, right? The number one thing that is a barrier for folks to get into their own home, to be a homeowner, is that down payment, right? And when you're thinking about that down payment specifically, this is why I'm bringing up these programs, okay? And this is why I urge you, please, you don't have to memorize all the different things I just told you, right? And I know you're watching this live, which is great. And thank you so much for being here. Also, feel free to ping me, ask me questions. But what I want to let you know is that when we're talking about home ownership, the biggest barrier is the down payment. These programs exist for your benefit, especially if you're here in Texas. Texas has the best programs I've seen, right? Yes, I'm totally biased because I'm here in Texas and San Antonio, right? But I will tell you that not only do you have state level programs that you can take advantage of, but the city of San Antonio has programs for you as well. So that's the part where if you don't ask about these programs, then you may not be able to unlock that opportunity for yourself to actually buy a home. And again, the idea of creating homeowners is creating thriving communities. You already live in this community. Why shouldn't you own a home? Right? And that's why I'm bringing these things up to you. These are things that I want to make you aware of so that way you can ask those questions. And again, all these programs, they do have income requirements. Sometimes you have to take a class. Sometimes it depends on what loan you're using. It has all these different requirements around them, right? But the only way that you're really going to know if you qualify for one of these programs is by starting out with a quick little 15-minute phone call with me. Happy to chat with you and just find out what your individual situation is and get you connected to my lending expert who can really run those numbers for you and see what you qualify for, right? And here's the thing, guys. Yes, there's things like credit scores out there. I have a whole blog article on that too, right? But the reality is that I feel, this is just my opinion, okay? But I feel that we have a lot of anxiety around our credit scores, and even though you may not feel good about it, right? I know I have a little bit of anxiety about my credit score sometimes, right? It doesn't mean that it disqualifies you per se, but let's go find out. Let's find out for sure, right? And if the only thing holding you back, let's say you qualify for down payment assistance and, your income levels and all that kind of stuff qualify you for, X amount of dollars for a new home, and the only thing we need to work on is your credit score, that puts you in a really good position because at least you have one small thing to work on. And after that, you just unlocked your whole home ownership journey, my friend, right? So the only way you're going to find out, again, the only way you're going to find out about this stuff is that if you start with a simple chat. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to help you out. I'm here to help you be a homeowner. The reason why I'm a realtor here in San Antonio is to help more people become homeowners. That's why I focus on first-time home buyers. It's not because it's easy. I do it because I want to help people understand that homeownership is a reality that you can experience for yourself. Okay. And so I just want to let you know, I'm going to be doing these lives on a regular basis, talking about different topics, right? And maybe you've seen one of my little shorts that I cut from these things, right? So all I got to say is that if you have questions about it, if you want resources, if you just want to just talk it out a little bit, just to kind of bounce some ideas and just maybe think about the possibility, reach out. Send me a message. Go ahead and set up some time, 15 minutes on my calendar. More than happy to talk to you. Or if you just want to leave a comment on one of the things I post on TikTok, that's okay too. I check my comments. So I appreciate your guys' time and thank you so much. So one of the things that I want to know from you is, are you ready? Right? If you're ready, go ahead and let me know. Drop a comment. So let me know if you're ready or not. And if you are, definitely when you let me know if you're ready or not, let me know what zip codes you're looking in, what area of town you're looking in, things like that. Or if you just have questions about the San Antonio market in general, and is this a good time to buy, which yes, it is, by the way, then just go ahead and reach out. Again, my link is in my bio. You can set up time for me. If you are in the military, active, reserve, retired, definitely set up time with me as well, and we can talk about your options as well. But don't hesitate to reach out, because the worst thing is not knowing. You set up 15 minutes with me, you're going to start your journey on knowing what you need to do to become a homeowner, and it might happen a little bit sooner than you think. All right, guys? Thank you for your time. I really appreciate all the views, and we'll talk to you later. All right, have a good one, everybody. Bye.